USA Today volunteers make preparations for upcoming free clinics in Ecuador. Today volunteers in China provide support to a boy battling with a rare soft tissue cancer. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Siri Su. Thank you for joining us. In Ecuador, city volunteers have laid deep roots after carrying out disaster relief in the aftermath of the earthquake in 2016. It has been 4 years since city volunteers' first visit to the country. Besides rebuilding a church in Canoa, the volunteers are also hosting free clinics in 4 areas. Volunteers from the United States are making preparations to make sure the free clinics will run smoothly.
It's been 6 months. Tzu Chi is planning to host a medical outreach in Ecuador again this year for the second time. The survey team headed out to assess the medical outreach towns to check out the facilities.
People here make very little money, and sometimes because of their disability or disease, they don't work or they can't find a job. Many of them cannot read or write, so there's a high need of medical attention.
Tzu Chi's affinity with Ecuador began in 2016 after the strong quake rocked the country. Since then, the organization has begun mid to long-term relief efforts, which included cash for relief, rebuilding churches, dormitories and classrooms, etc. This year, free medical outreach was included in the assistance provided.
This is a remote region, so their medical facilities aren't complete. After visiting the area 2 or 3 times for training, we also conducted surveys to see if it was suitable. And thus, finally, we're here to host a medical outreach.
A frequent visitor to Ecuador, U.S. Tzu Chi volunteer Martin Kuo has seen firsthand the increase in the local volunteers' efforts and compassion.
We have recruited local doctors to help us, and in each city we visit, the response has been quite generous than the next, as they understand and support our cause. They know the efforts Tzu Chi has put in the last 2 years, and they want to be a part of it.
Just like the free clinic in January, the ones which will be held later in July will be conducted in 4 cities. Tzu Chi's bringing 13 doctors, and the rest will be supported by local medical volunteers.
We look forward to the success of Tzu Chi's medical outreach in our country. On behalf of the government, we're honored and happy to support you on the medical volunteers front.
When the pre-medical clinic survey trip was met with rain, it was the perfect opportunity for a leakage test for the buildings. Since there was a problem, the volunteers and the government officials worked together to come up with a solution. This way, the upcoming free clinic can be conducted with a prepared heart.
Tzu Chi Australia Chapter has been helping many families with autistic children. They hold various activities where Tzu Chi volunteers and therapists accompany the children. Recently, Tzu Chi volunteers held another event with the theme of buying things at a night market.
What do you want today?
When buying things, the shoppers need to consider a lot while the shop owners are introducing the items. Tzu Chi Australia Chapter has been holding activities for children with autism. This time the theme is shopping at night markets.
You have to pay the money.
It was really good because it gives the kids the experience of buying.
They provide assistance that these children need. Every now and then they hold some activities, like the event today. It gives the children opportunities for development.
Tzu Chi volunteers to prepare tasty vegetarian food sold for 7 cents or more. The money will be used to help disaster survivors in Eastern Africa.
I didn't know where it was going. I knew it was fundraising. So that's another reason we're happy to come to support the fundraising effort. Because I think it's very important. Even we give a little bit, if lots of people help, a little bit makes a big difference.
We've received help from Tzu Chi. Therefore, as parents, we're also willing to help other people in need. I suggest that they hold more activities like this one. We can join with our children.
The children interact with other people and experience buying things. In addition, some kids take to the stage to sing for everyone. In the past, they might have closed themselves off to others. However, Tzu Chi volunteers have helped these autistic children for 8 years. With the guidance of professional teachers and support of Tzu Chi volunteers, these families are becoming happier and ready to pay the love forward. After the Sichuan earthquake in 2008, Tzu Chi volunteers helped rebuild 13 schools and also introduced Jingsi aphorisms to the schools. Among the schools, the volunteers started a little song program at Qianjing Tzu Chi Elementary School.
Tzu Chi volunteers must leave before dawn because it will take almost 3 hours by car from Chengdu to Qianjing Elementary School in Ya'an Town. Tzu Chi volunteers held a little sun smiling program to help children in the mountains. Some are raised by their grandparents and some are raised by their parents, but the parents do not know a good way to talk to their children.
这样的一个计划实行的过程当中，我们也看见会有学校的就是这群留守儿童的一些。
While carrying this plan, we see the relatives or the parents of students who must live on campus. The teachers will join us in caring for the students. The teachers teaching character and Jingsi aphorisms and the parents volunteering allow us to see the love and the goodness are spreading.
一个生活相继工作那其实都让我们看见就是这样的一股。 爱跟善一直在扩大。
就随着他一起进来学习，参加志愿者。
I'm now a volunteer at the school, and I've also learned a lot of things. I've changed myself. In the past, I loved playing mahjong, but I've quit a bad habit because I want to spend more time with my child. When I see him change, I feel quite happy.
看到孩子，或多或少的也有改变，我心中也感到无比的欣慰。
I've attended the Little Sun program for 2 years. In the past, when I got home, I'd go out and play instead of doing my homework. But now I'll finish my homework first before going out to play. If I have spare time, I'll help my home with housework.
This program has run for 2.5 years and it has seen many positive results among children and their parents. Through participating in the program, both the parents and children grow and learn.
Continuing her island-wide tour, Dharma Master Zheng Yan has arrived in Kaohsiung. The children of a DaAi kindergarten seized the occasion to donate their coin banks to help cyclone survivors in Eastern Africa. These children also invented an eye-caring exercise, and her Master Zheng Yan will use it to protect her eyes.
The children of a DaAi kindergarten bring their coin banks to Master Zheng Yan and also a reminder. They also do an eye care exercise and hope that Master will not exhaust herself. The Kaohsiung Jingsi drum team has also recruited several young people to join it and touch their families.
Dad has gained a lot of satisfaction and passion by being enrolled in the drum team. He now volunteers himself to be on the team instead of being a bystander.
假如你们没有走入此境，丢垃圾的应该都是你们，消费者也都是你们，造业者也是你们。所以年轻人。 我们要很庆幸，过去的因过去的因，好因好缘。
Guosi was illiterate and she never expected herself to be able to write. However, the study group allowed her to transform the impossible into the possible.
I didn't know how to write. To write grateful, it took me a long time.
大家有时间。 要珍惜生命的过程是很宝贵。你空过时日，那虚度光阴。
Regardless of how old we are, we should all seize time while we are on the Bodhisattva path and do good deeds in society.
In Nanjing, China, Yao Jiahao, a 6-year-old boy, suffers from rare cancer. The tumor cells can grow at any organ, so it is difficult to treat it. The tumors have wrapped themselves around several arteries and veins, so these tumors cannot be removed and have ruined his left kidney. So the volunteer has been providing spiritual support for this family.
His little body has been enduring the pain and the sleepless nights for 3.5 years.
妈妈，你不要把我放弃，你救救我呢！他就求着我。蚯蚓一样的。
脖子来是吧？哦，试过哦，要准备试过了。试过。
He wants a hug from the volunteer because he is still a child. When Yao Jiahao was 2.5 years old, he was diagnosed with rhabdomyosarcoma. His life is destined to be different.
He kept crying that he was in pain. It wasn't until 4 in the morning that he fell asleep.
他妈妈也没睡。
我都抱了他一夜。
我整晚都想到社工上了。
你整晚都想到施工上了。
没睡好，就是想施工上了。我根本不是不爱你。
你根本不是不爱我。
爸爸要怎么也生病，汪汪也生病。
The boy is sick, but he still cares about the people around him. There are surgical wounds on his body. One kidney has been removed, and he has undergone over 30 chemotherapies and radiotherapies.
你腿上有一个炸弹，那你
There is a bomb in your leg, so you shouldn't run or jump. You must walk slowly, okay? You shouldn't jump slowly either, or you will kickstart the bomb.
也不行啊，你跳了一跳，这会带动这个炸弹。加好带路。
Jiahao loves robots because they can fight against crime and their bodies never become sick.
人的一生，它也是一个结束吧。
People have calamities, understand? Some encounter calamities when they are little, and some encounter them after they grow up.
我们去哪里？
大爱村。
哦，去大爱村。
你要去大爱村干什么？
为什么想要做志工？
我想做环保。
你还想做环保啊？
天空没有偷偷的味道，路上没有怕怕的特大叫，雨滴飘下来清澈的音调，地球干净而美好。
A person over the age of 80 should not have to take care of her children. However, that is exactly what Grandmama of Fujian has been doing. It is because her 2 children cannot take care of themselves. Thanks to the care of Xiamen city volunteers, Grandmama can finally take breaks. Recently, the volunteers visited a family to cook a festive meal for them.
On the way to visit Ma Faxian, it rained, yet Tzu Chi volunteers still insist on the visit, bringing with them bags of groceries to share with the family. Upon entering the door, they see Senior Ma's 43-year-old daughter curled up on the floor in the corner, while the 54-year-old son is sitting on the patio. Senior Ma has just returned from working in the fields. In her 90s already, she is still taking care of her 2 children. The local volunteers make themselves at home and start cooking.
平常你都吃什么？
平常，吃的蛮能吃，鸡蛋啦、青菜。
This is the first time so many people are here for a meal.
好吃的啊，这些都是素的啦。你知道他们为什么会自己带菜来吗？
你呀，我就你做很苦。
他们担心给你添麻烦。你说原来是一肚子气，现在
不会气，
比较顺一点。
气都没有了。
In giving selflessly, Dharma joy can be obtained. The volunteers who are here for the first time experience this Dharma joy firsthand.
第一次开始我有点不敢，为什么？
It's my first time. I didn't want to in the beginning, but I saw how Brother Juan did it with so much love. I thought I would try it for myself. It's a good feeling.
The family showers in the alley at the back of the house. Volunteers prepared 2 buckets of clean water to help bathe the daughter. It's pretty clear this task is not so easy for the senior to do on her own.
In the past, I didn't want to bathe my mom, but after helping the daughter, I think I'll be able to give my mom a bath. I want to bring my kids in doing this filial act as I must set an example.
The son-in-law that lives nearby pays a visit under the heat of the volunteers.
我们的手还能够做事，我们的脚还能够走好路，你说是不是有福气？对不对？多少人的手没力气的也有啊，对不对？哈，我们是有福气的人，哈，我觉得有缘哦，有缘，对，哈，所以大家一起来相互帮忙，哈，我奶奶高兴吧？来看你高不高兴？高兴，高兴哦，高兴。
Doing good deeds is a way to fulfill filial piety, as the worries the senior ma dissipates with the volunteers' visit.
80% of Syrian refugees in Jordan live below the poverty line. Finding work is one of the toughest problems they face. In 2016, 4 major industries were open to refugees to apply for work. Despite this, some refugees are still out of work. The Jordanian government must look after the interests of its own people, as well as helping refugees. This tented area is only 6 kilometers from the Syrian border. Here lives 27 households with more than 140 Syrian refugees. More than 3 years ago, they migrated from the Zaatari refugee camp. Wherever there's work, they'll go as they have become modern nomads.
The twilight sun warms this desolate land as children play with toys made from recycled products brought by Tzu Chi volunteers from Taiwan. The fate of these 27 families is closely related because they're actually the same Alma tribe from southern Syria. When they were in Syria, there were as many as 700 households. After the war broke out, they fled to Jordan, Lebanon, and Turkey. They have no contact with the other 600 households.
موجودين هنا موجودين سنة و8 شهور.
Dad is holding the youngest son. There are a total of 15 children in their family. The eldest son is 26 years old. In fact, where Syrian refugees gather, there are often many children. The number of children actually reflects the survival crisis of refugees. The Jordan INGO Forum found that Syrian refugees generally marry early. Some parents think it is safer to let their daughter get married early, making them more stable and reducing the burden on the family.
Because they are not allowed to have birth control in Islam, they don't advocate birth control. We used to argue with a charity responsible for their women's protection. They said that so many of them die in the war, we must produce more children.
Humanity needs to continue, so they will populate. So on the other hand, some refugees get married early, but there are also special problems, and another aspect is education.
My personal opinion is that you have escaped and are so poor that it must be even more difficult to raise children. What can be done now?
3 years ago, they found this land. The landlord allowed them to put up tents, and they slowly built this brick house.
If they're farming for the farm owner, they can use the water and the electricity for free. There's still little wage for pay, but when there's no work, each tent resident has to pay about $30 of rent.
The place to live, the children can finally have a fixed school to go to. While they wait for the school bus, they take the time to practice English.
14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
85% of the population of Syrian refugees in Jordan are school-aged children. So there are about 40% who are either doing informal education, so more out-of-school catch-up classes, or simply out of school.
At first, there was a racial problem between Jordanians and Syrians, but then there were many children, both big and small, who went to work instead of going to school. Some of these older children who are 13 or 14 years old this year don't go to school because they work.
17-year-old Mohammed has been working on this farm for 6 years. He came to Jordan from the age of 11 and was a child laborer. His academic qualifications are just at the 4th grade of elementary school when he fled Syria.
Am I studying or working? I'm working. I don't study. No.
On average, I would say that each particular worker receives about $500 a month.
Sometimes there are only 6 months of work a year. Refugees work 10 to 15 hours a day and receive a salary every 3 months. Employers pay between $7,000 to $21,000 to labor agents, who will then pay 50 workers.
Working for 1 hour is about $1.5. So these workers don't get as much as Jordanians.
In October 2018, the Jabr gate on the border between Jordan and Syria reopened, meaning refugees can return to Syria. But the survey shows as many as 73% of refugees do not want to go back in the coming year.
If you have participated in this group or that group, you may not dare to go back. This is the first reason. The second is that the economy has been disrupted and there is no way to survive.
It's also very difficult to survive in Jordan, and Syrian refugees even clashed in 2016 over work. In response to the needs of refugees, the United Nations and the Jordanian government allowed 4 major industries to employ refugees, releasing 125,000 work permits.
Since 2016, when the Jordan Compact happened, Syrian refugees have been able to apply for work permits in Jordan, which is an incredible step forward. So in agriculture, manufacturing, hospitality industries and construction. And we see that most of the refugees, when they do apply for permits, it is in manufacturing and agriculture.
Currently, 80% of Syrian refugees in Jordan still live below the poverty line. On the one hand, the Jordanian government must protect the right to work of its own people. But on the other hand, it must also take into account the humanitarian needs of the refugees. How to create a win-win situation is still a difficult balancing act at the moment.
City volunteers in Southern California have been distributing fresh fruit and vegetables to low-income families at Villa Porta Elementary School. Despite the difficult weather conditions, they continue to ensure the impoverished families receive these fresh produce. We'll leave you with these images. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.